Instagram Live. Long time no see. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's second quarter has been great. I would say that work has definitely picked up over at Masscom Guru. We're super excited. We have a few projects in the works. My name is Jabari Jefferson, and I am the owner of a video production company called Masscom Guru. I also am the founder of the platform Jabari Advocates, which is really a place, a platform, a company where we promote, support, and empower creatives near and far. The series that you're watching here on Instagram Live is called Jabari Advocates, where I talk to different creatives, industry professionals that are, geared towards supporting creatives. So on this special episode called Profit Perspectives, Unlocking Financial Success in Creative Industries, I'll be talking to Jason Upshaw, the owner of Belvedere Tax Group. They provide a plethora of tax services, and today you'll hear more about those services. I see we have Belvedere in the house. What's going on, folks? I'll bring you all in a few once we have some more people tuned in. And I'm super excited. I'm super excited to talk to Jason. I've known Jason since 2020, and him and Michelle have been great assets to my business, supporting me in so many ways. And at the time when I, met Jason, I didn't really have a clear direction of how I wanted to take my business. I would say I definitely focused more on the creative aspects of my business, like so many, creatives, like their passion is in the art, but they aren't necessarily focusing on the business initially, because again, like we're creators, we're in our field, we're trying to just create the best art possible, but we really have to take the time to learn about taxes, accounting, business, all of those things that help us pretty much transcend those early stages. We're often on a like a hamster wheel when we're starting out. If we're doing art for commerce, we're doing art to make money. We're constantly breaking even or even operating in the deficit, in the red. So if it wasn't for Belvedere Tax Group, I wouldn't have that level of awareness where I can learn more about taxes and how to advance my business. So again, we'll hear more about that once Jason is added. So before we get there, I want to get to about 5 consistent viewers. So folks that are tuning in now, please make sure to share with your community on social media, on Instagram, just to make sure that Jason feels welcome and we have an audience, so we can get that vital information. We need that information. So again, I could give some quick updates again on just how business has been. Business has been great. Work has definitely picked up exponentially when it comes to video production. We've been servicing a lot of companies with Masscom Guru in the DMV area. And I'm super excited in the direction that I'm taking my business. I've stopped operating as an individual and operating as executive producer for my production. So I'm into like team building and having different professionals come in, whether they're handling lighting, whether they're handling the camera department, all of these different things that I now am beginning to like grow my company. And again, thanks to Belvedere Tax Group for giving me that insight. And I won't divulge too much because I want to make sure that we have a great interview, and folks can learn a thing or two about taxes and all the things that come with that. What's going on, Daniel?
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, sir. How you doing?
Woo, yeah,
All
I
right, all right,
know.
all
It's
right.
been
Happy
a
Saturday to
heck
you.
of a season for me, but okay. Good morning.
I can imagine, yes. Yeah. Good morning. Yep,
Right.
I can imagine, tax season has officially ended. I'm sure you all were, as you said, were pretty busy, and things have been great, business wise. I'm definitely excited to talk to you, Jason, and find out a little bit more about Belvedere Tax Group. So again, the platform is called Jabari Advocates, where we promote, support, and empower creatives near and far. As you
Right.
know, I am a creative, and you've seen me at my earlier stages, and you've also been able to see me progress with with your advisement. So let's get right into it. Tell me a little bit about what you do at Belvedere Tax
Uh,
Group. I know
an
you're
enrolled
an
agent
enrolled
is
agent. What is that?
we're licensed by the U.S. Treasury to do most things, all things tax, I guess, especially so by federal statute, we could represent people before the IRS and the states across all 50 states and worldwide. So we really focus on tax problems that people have, and of course I do tax tax returns for individuals to corporate returns. So we're really tax specialists, and we focus in on helping people get out of most likely tough jams, or just maximizing a person's tax situation.
Mhm. Awesome. That's great. So what are some like frequent issues or just concerns that like small businesses, specifically like
That
creatives,
creatives
kind of
present,
present
they
to you?
they give creative problems. That's what they get. Creatives, I would say that oh, I mean, and it's not just creatives, but I think just business people in general. It's their first foray, probably a lot of times, especially like early startups. It's their first foray into business per se. By default, a lot of people kind of find themselves in business when they get that 1099, and they didn't know that, oh wow, I became a business. So it can be it's I mean, me myself, I mean, I've been a business person since I was a kid, so it's kind of second nature for me. But for a lot of folks who are, you know, uh, taking on a contract, or they won a grant to do a sculpture, or they're creating a movie that somebody wanted to pay them for, then it's usually how they get introduced or figure out that they're in business and they didn't know they were in business. So I think that's a kind of a thing how a lot of creators find themselves. And then from there, I take over. I try to help them understand that side of it. They understand what they're doing, which is the creative aspect, and trying to make something that the world hasn't seen before, most likely. But the world has some processes that are already here and ready for somebody being a part of that. So yeah, that's what we do. We just try to focus in on helping them put the two pieces together, the creative as well as the business side.
Yes, that's awesome. So I noticed two
Yeah.
things you said. So you said you've been in business since you were like a kid.
Right.
I definitely can relate to that.
Right.
I used to cut grass back in the day when I moved to Anacostia, which is a community, a neighborhood in Washington D.C. So that was like my first taste of entrepreneur life, and I didn't really know what I was doing,
Hmm.
but I learned, just customer service, talking to my
Right.
clients, and it seems so like insignificant when you look back at it, but having those principles, at a young age is really instrumental. And then you also mentioned, 1099s as freelancers and creators. We know about that, a lot. And so kind of talk about like when it comes to like being an independent contractor, when it comes to owning a business, how important it is to obviously keep records of your 1099s, but you also got to pay Uncle Sam, right? We're
Hmm.
receiving that money. We're receiving that money, but like a portion of that has to go to the state, it has to go to the feds. Like, so kind of tell us about that for those that might not necessarily know, that they are creatives, but they may not necessarily know that process when it comes to
All right. So I mean,
1099s and taxes.
that's the thing. Well, I think that a lot of people, they kind of get the misconception. I think the thing I see happen a lot is that folks, they start earning some money, right? And what I see sometimes, that they'll earn the money, and then once they earn it, they think they have to pay taxes on every dollar that comes in. And or so they build up the money in the account, and they don't touch it. I've had clients come in, and they haven't touched the money for like a year or two. Okay, they get they get the money and they don't touch it, and they're spending their money from some other place, and then they're like, okay, I don't know how I'm supposed to take the money out of the business and pay myself. Or they're the opposite. They take every dollar and they spend every dollar, and not really realizing that they do need to, that they may have made a profit, and they need to pay taxes on that profit. And see, I think that's the key concept that folks, who are not used to being in business, is that you only pay tax on if you made a profit. Okay, if you didn't make a profit, all right, and I may be confusing folks. So what's a profit, right? So a profit is you make money, you spend money. If there's something left over, that's a profit. Okay, so with that profit, yes, you'll pay some type of tax on that profit. Um, so it can seem kind of difficult when you're starting up, and so that's why maybe the early stages is more important that you work on your business model, because in the early stages of a lot of business, you don't know if it's going to be a profitable venture or not. And that's why I think the IRS has what's called like hobby loss rules, because maybe in the early start of a business you may be considered like a hobby and not a business, and it gives you that little bit of flexibility to operate without the worry of the IRS kind of stuff, because the government wants you to create businesses, because that's going to help create revenue for the government. It helps push us forward. So they want you to stay in business. They don't want to take you out of business with taxes. They want to encourage you to do that. So I don't think people worry about taxes more than they have to. If you're making money, then they're going to take their piece of it. They're not going to take all of it. They're going to take maybe somewhere between 10 and 25%, but at least you still made some money. Okay, so that's the thing. That's what I think people need to focus on: making the money, coming up with a business model, and come see guys like me that's going to help you figure out how to keep some more of that money. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of that, let's take a big step back. Tell us about Belvedere Tax Group, kind of
Right.
like the staff,
Right.
shout out to Michelle. Michelle's amazing. She's an amazing bookkeeper. Me and Michelle, we talk a lot about, bookkeeping. So tell us about Belvedere Tax Group. Where are you all
Okay, yeah,
located,
so
and
we
how
have
can
two
people find out
locations.
more
We have
about
one in
you all?
Baltimore, one in DC, and basically do the same thing: bookkeeping, taxes, payroll, and just overall, just business consulting. So, what if you need help with, especially starting your business up? That's what we do. We help you try to figure out, and actually, that's the reason why I got into taxes and business, was because I really wanted to help small businesses get better at giving themselves a chance to stay in business. Taxes a lot of times takes people out. It paralyzes you. And I want to take the fear out of that stops a lot of people from trying to grow their businesses. So that's been one of my big things, to try to make that happen. So, but yeah, taxes, bookkeeping, payroll, and I like to put in the business consulting. That's what I like to kind of focus in on.
Mhm. Cool. So that's great. So I can speak for myself. When I first got introduced to, I
Hmm.
guess, the concept of like having an account and having a tax group, there was a lot of like maybe fear and like misconception when it came to like, just that onboarding process. So for those that might be, using like TurboTax or like QuickBooks, doing kind of their own tax
Hmm.
keeping, excuse me, like tax preparation services on their own. Can you kind of like walk through that like consultation of like working with Belvedere Tax Group for the
Yeah,
first
I
time,
guess a lot of people
kind of what
probably
that
do.
onboarding
I
process looks
guess a
like?
lot of people do. They find themselves uh, asking Google, and probably now Chat GPT, about okay, what's the best thing to do on their taxes and such and so forth. But I think that it's helpful to have that human interaction, to to make things plain. I'm a straight talker, so if I see something that makes sense, then I'm going to tell you. If it doesn't make sense, I'm going to tell you. And I'll definitely lend my business experience. And that's the other great thing about having like a tax person. Um, is that they're not, I find myself, it's not just my experience that I'm sharing with you, but it's the experience of so many different clients that have come across my desk. So it's I'm taking in their situation and I'm sharing the experience and the nuances of all these little different business situations that come through me. And so I think that's what makes it valuable to use a professional like myself versus doing TurboTax, whereas you're probably doing your taxes once a year. I've done taxes. I've had 400 plus tax returns come across my desk just between December, January, and April alone. So, I'm taking all the experience for what's happened in 2023 versus a person who's looking at TurboTax or whatever it might be for that first time. And not only that, so it's 400 so far this year. By the end of the year, it'll double, 800 times that I've seen 2022 tax returns, and then the thousands of returns before that I've done. So that to me is the value. I've done it 1,000 plus times, and you're doing it one time a year, and that takes away from the time that you are probably having to really focus on building your business versus doing it and probably being on your own trying to do something. So I think that's the real value in using a company like ours or using us.
Definitely. Yeah, I could definitely attest to that. I can say, as me as being a creative, like I want to focus on being creative. I want to focus on doing what I do best. But if I'm wearing so many hats, like I'm my own accountant, I'm my own, business developer, like it gets draining. And I would say when I met you all, like that was like a point in my career where it's like I wanted to outsource
Right.
that responsibility. And I have no regrets, from that. Like you and Michelle and the folks at Belvedere Tax Group have helped me in so many ways. And so speaking of that, bookkeeping, what is bookkeeping and how
Yeah, so
is it
bookkeeping is
important
basically the
to like the tax
scorecard
preparation
of
process?
any business. It helps you able to know if you're up or down. It's the way you're able to decide if you're heading in the right direction from a financial perspective. It's if you don't have it, how do you know? If you don't have your books correct, how do you know if you're tax efficient, meaning that you have not paid the government more than you needed to. And to me, that's the thing. It's the business's scorecard. It helps keep you charted your course. If you have a good business plan, you could go ahead and it helps you know if you're following your business plan or not. Being able to keep a close eye on those numbers.
Hmm. Hmm. For sure, for sure. I just want to take a second to acknowledge the viewers. Thank you for everybody that's watching right now. I definitely want to give you all the opportunity to ask Jason some questions. So please, if you hear anything that's profound or something that you want us to expound upon, please feel free to add those questions in the comment section. Shout out to my big bro Matt. Appreciate you for your engagement. Yes,
Okay.
I'm just kind of reading through the comments right now. Hey Kathleen, thanks for joining. Let's see. I know Matt said something that was really interesting. He was like, I guess he was talking about adding on to what you and I were saying. And he was like a CPA. It says especially a CPA that knows artists and creatives. Yep, I would say Jason definitely knows artists and creatives. He said keyword profit. Yes, profit is very important. So yeah, that's great. Matt also said I've got returns because I paid too much
Oh,
quarterly. So yeah, quarterly. Let's talk about quarterly taxes and how important that is, Jason.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
Jeremy?
and see, this is probably one of our bread and butters is working with businesses on a quarterly basis, just because we people don't understand that you're actually required to pay taxes quarterly if you're a business. If you don't pay your taxes quarterly, at the end of the year, there's somewhat of a penalty for not taking care of your taxes on a quarterly basis if you have a profit. If you don't have a profit, there's no taxes to pay. Okay, but if you do have a profit, it's probably best to take care of it quarterly, because the worst thing is to find yourself with a huge tax bill at the end of the year. That's what you don't want to find yourself doing. And it's probably not again tax efficient to find yourself with a huge tax bill at the end of the year. You know, so yeah, quarterly. There's a lot of things that have to be done. There's a lot of tax situations that it's not just the federal, it's the state. It's not just the state. It's also could be local, and there are multiple tax issues. It could be you have like here in Maryland, we have the annual filing or the personal property return, and so that's with the state. But then the state sends information to the local governments, and then the local government will send you a tax bill on some personal things. So. So
Mhm.
right, right. Yeah, I keep trying
Oh
to
yeah,
tell this
that's the
person,
money
listen, I'm
calling.
gonna call you back. So but yeah, I mean, to me, I think it's important
Okay.
to work
Yeah.
with. If you can have somebody to work with, and a lot of times, it's just a consultation. You'll find that your perspective will open up when you're in business, and it can be very helpful to talk to a tax professional or just a business professional.
Cool. Yep. So not only do I work with Belvedere Tax Group when it comes to improving my like tax process and kind of alleviating that stress on my end, Jason has also been instrumental again as a business advisor. So I definitely recall one of our meetings that we had. I want to say maybe early this year or maybe last year, where you broke down, I guess, like the different tiers that most businesses are in. The first tier being,
Hmm.
being on that hamster wheel, like we're just working to break even. And then the second tier would be like more like, and I could be
Right.
butchering this, so please feel free to correct me. But that second tier was more like, growth and I think expansion or something like that. And then the third one, I forgot. Are you open to kind of sharing that are you open to sharing that kind of that
I
model
mean,
when it comes to like improving
I
a
guess the
business,
first
a
the
small
first stage
business?
for a lot of businesses, for most businesses that don't have like don't take an educated approach to it, because in business school, you learn the overall the life cycle of any business. You know that it's a startup and it's a growth. Then it might be some leveling. Um, might be some leveling of the business. Could be. Um, Sorry, Michelle just told me to prop my phone up.
It's all good.
She just told me to do something. I was like, okay, I do
Hey
that. I don't know what to
Michelle.
do here. So it might be some like leveling of the business. Once it gets to a mature stage, and then if you were to turn around and take the time and take the time and look at your mistakes that the business has made, and look at the success that the business has made, then you could actually uh, you can actually start that process back over of growth and then leveling and then growth and then leveling. And that's how businesses can kind of can continue an upward trajectory if you take that time to do the business planning almost on a like yearly basis. I mean that's what I do every year. I make sure I see, okay, we've made a mistake. If we've made some improvements, we'll go ahead and look where we failed and look where we've improved. And that's the same as this year. We've had some really big growth markers for us this year, but obviously with growth comes problems and mistakes. So we just try to I just try to improve what and practice what I preach. That's the biggest thing I try to do. 'Cause. 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 '
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'll speak candidly about my experience owning a business, a small business. Now I'm in year five. I definitely operated most of my creative business journey as an individual, doing a lot of video production on my own. But if it wasn't for you all kind of, introducing the concept of scaling and scalability to my business or just in business in general, I wouldn't have had, wouldn't have taken the proper steps to think about that. So could you touch on like the importance of scaling a business and kind of the advantages
Scaling, I
that it,
mean, who
can
doesn't want to
yield?
scale? Um, who doesn't want to make more money? That's why you're in it for the most part.
Hmm.
Again, that's how we keep the scorecard about what's happening. But and I realize that not every business believes they're in business to make money. Some businesses, they like to, they have a cause, but then it necessarily wouldn't be a business, would it? Socialpreneurship is definitely probably was how I first got started, in my introduction into business. And but for most businesses, it's about making money, and the ease and everyone's in their mind when they're thinking about starting a business. It's about they're thinking about scaling and getting to the point to where I guess their family's comfortable or they're comfortable. And it, scaling, I think it's for some folks, it's not necessarily about scaling. I think it's more about just being comfortable, or wherever their comfort level is at. Some people's comfort level is if they're making 20,000 a month. Some people are comfortable if they're making 6,000. Some people want 100 million a month. So it just depends on whenever somebody starts with me, I always say, well, do you have a business plan and what are your goals? Your goals are very much going to determine if you where this business is going to go. Your business is limited by your vision. If you want to scale, then and scaling might mean uh you know might mean in your business, it might mean having a crew of 100. But if you're only one person and you want to do really boutique type stuff, it might just be a crew of 10, and you just bring on some, W-2, or you bring on some 1099, side actors who that you just kind of, bring in every now and then, are not regular employees of yours. I think that's what Matt wanted to know about. He wanted to know about some
Yes.
W-2 versus 1099 people. I just saw that comment there. Scaling is. hmm So I
Yeah, for
think that
sure, for
I mean,
sure.
if someone wants to scale,
Mhm.
it again comes back to what your business, ultimately what you want to make happen with your business. um, and that's why I always recommend you at least take the time. If you don't take the time to create a 10-page or 100-page business plan, maybe you go ahead and you create at least a 2-pager, just to try to define, and then you come back. That could be version 1, and in version 2 it might double the number of pages in your business plan. And every year you're going to figure out, okay, do you want to, I mean, I've been questioning myself, okay, do I want to have 8 offices like I originally thought, in around the DMV, or was I happier just with, like, 2 offices, and getting to know the people on an individual basis. I mean, this past tax season was an eye opener for me, because I'm used to seeing every single client. I don't see all my clients now. I have other
Mhm.
folks get to see the clients. I have other people now, spending
Mhm.
time with the clients, and I come in where I need to come in. And but it's good because my staff, they get to develop personal
Mhm.
relationship with the clients and create that attachment, and that's what's been helping us scale. I was an individual for a long time, seeing my clients,
Mhm.
and everyone knew me. But now I have a staff, and the client, they make personal relationships with the staff,
Yes.
and that's helped the business grow overall. And I believe that's how it's going to
Mhm.
end up happening for a lot of businesses.
Amazing.
Um, so just depends on what what you want to have happen in your what do you see, what do you envision for your plan, and then as it unfolds, can you stick with or is that good for you? Is that the direction that you want? As everything reveals itself, is it going with something that you can live with? Because just because you have a vision in your mind doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work out that way.
Hmm. That's true. That's actually a great point. I kind of want to talk about budgeting. Like, how much can a creative, or how, like, what is like on average? And feel free to give exact numbers. How much would a creative pay to pay for your services, Belvedere Tax Group services, and that's including bookkeeping, let's say business advisement, and then ultimately tax preparation. Like, kind of give me like a ballpark
Okay.
number, and
Well, I
how
mean, bookkeeping is
consistently would
something
I
that
be
you probably
paying
pay
that?
on a monthly basis, and we really base it upon the the amount of work that person has to have. Like if you're a single, if you just have one bank account and you're doing probably less than 100,000 a year, we give you a probably flat rate of somewhere like 150 bucks a month. But if you are, a company that's doing 5 million, and you have, eight different bank accounts, and you have two credit card accounts, and you need us to be on in your office once a week doing things, then something like that might cost you like $3,500 a month. So it really depends on the business. Uh, Tax
Hmm.
returns, if you're a Schedule C individual,
Hmm.
and that even that has variances, but probably the lowest, probably someone's paying us like 375, and then the highest probably someone pay us in that type of situation, I don't know, maybe like $2,500. So there are, it can be so varied and depends on the person's individual tax or business needs, and the payroll too. I mean, we have some, the lowest that we charge on a monthly basis on payroll is like 150 bucks a month, and then it could scale up from there.
Hmm. Cool. That's great. Great. That's great. Good insight on that. For those that are still watching and they're still kind of on the fence about integrating tax services, what would you say are some of those telltale signs, as a creative, when they should like call Belvedere to pretty much bring them in, to the fold? Like, what are some of those signs as a creative
Uh,
when I need an
I say
accountant, like,
right from the
or I need
beginning,
a tax
right
dude.
when you realize that you're interacting with the government. I think it's probably good to get help right from the beginning. If you're interacting with the government in a way that you haven't before, then yeah, I would get somebody to help you, and it can be a challenge. I know it could be a challenge out there for folks who are trying to get started. You don't know what is what and who is who. Some people are credentialed, some people are not credentialed, but they have the experience. And I think that it can be confusing and probably frustrating to try to try to get into business, and you don't know who to trust. And I that's why I think usually when people they find us, they stick with us because they we're pretty consistent in what we do, and it can, it's a challenge. I know it is out there because it's a lot of funny business out there. A lot of funny business.
For sure. So let's shift gears a little bit. What you think about like Earn Your Leisure and all those social media, like business kind of like pages that talk about taxes, and it seems almost like they're finessing the system. Like, as a person that's in the tax
How do I
field, how
feel
do you
about
feel
those
about
guys?
those guys? Or the information that
You
they share?
it's easy if it's difficult if a person is not licensed, then you can kind of say whatever the heck you want to say. But somebody like myself who's licensed, it's difficult for me to. I mean, I know that I'm being watched. I know that I'm bound by certain ethics, and I can't say those things. So it's kind of difficult for it's difficult to watch some things or listen to some things that people, because it's kind of like what a lot of those gurus or YouTubers or whatever they kind of give you half a truth, okay, and they give you something that they may have gotten away with, but not necessarily what you know the full
Hmm.
kind of life cycle of what can happen to you. Because let me tell you, when the government, when the IRS comes down on you, it can be heavy with some folks when it comes to money. They feel a certain type of a heaviness of owing, of having a debt. And some folks, it doesn't bother them at all, because it is just money at the end of the day. It's not like they're taking away your like your right to breathe or
Definitely.
to marry or anything like that. They're just taking away, some money. And there's plenty of money. So you can always get more money. But, why make problems that you don't necessarily need to have with a half truth? And so that's what I see. There is some truth in what they say, but there's that they don't explain the downside, because they're trying to sell you instead of giving you the ins and the outs of the good and the bad of whatever advice that they're giving. And I think that's going to be the difference between um, using a professional versus listen to them. I'm not saying that they're completely useless, but I'm also not. I also do not agree with. I mean, what they're good for is that they start a conversation, and so that's what it is. I think that's the
Mm.
usefulness of a lot of the information age has come in. It does start the conversation. It does make you question things, and so that's a good thing about that. It's great. You should, maybe you weren't aware of something, and now you could bring it to somebody like myself, and I can give you, the good and the bad of the situation. So I think that's where they're pretty good with.
Cool. Speaking of social media content and tax gurus, can we expect to see you creating some
Right, right,
content to
right,
kind of combat
right,
against
right.
those
Yeah,
half
yeah. I
truths?
mean, I'm definitely trying to
Doing some
get
videos.
I'm definitely trying to start a page with my cousin. She is she is also a creative. Okay, she has some she's more I guess media savvy than I am. I'm more technical. Um, but she has had a couple of businesses, and she's been encouraging me to get on here and share what I know, just from my experience as well as my education, with businesses. And I'm looking forward to it. Just we really wanted to be consistent about this tax season, but it was a beast, so couldn't really do couldn't do what we need to do. So yeah, I definitely need y'all's help to help me get this content out there. I'm sure people will be
Oh
able
yeah,
to
for sure. Yeah, speaking
benefit
of
from it.
that, yeah. Yeah, speaking of that, we have folks that are in the
Right.
creative community watching, so please tap in with Jason. DM him at Belvedere Tax Group, and pitch your services. You never know. You might, you all might do some collab and do some marketing. It could be a win-win for both parties. So again, for those that are just tuning in, I'm talking to the one and only Jason Upshaw of Belvedere Tax Group.
Right.
We've been talking a lot about taxes and accounting and all these important aspects that creatives like myself need to know about. So, kind of still on that same note of media, you were on television. You were on ABC up in Baltimore talking about Belvedere Tax Group. How was that experience for you? Like, are you comfortable being in front of the camera, or do you prefer to kind of still be behind the
Right,
scenes?
right. Yeah,
Because again, you are the face of
yeah,
Belvedere.
I'm not really on social media. I'm not really on, um, I'm not really, I'm not on social media. I'm not really on a lot of the different things, but I don't mind it. I just, I don't want, I like to stay in, I like to stay as a practicing tax professional, but I also realize that in order to get people comfortable, you probably need someone that is probably a little bit more down to earth when it comes to taxes. I'm not so, I'm not, I don't wear a tie when I come in. I don't, sometimes I'm unshaved like I am today, and I try to, relay information, take the technical and make it and bring it to layman terms, and realize that, I'm the oldest of five children to a single mother, and understand that the challenges that folks are faced with from starting out, but I also have the education and the experience to deal with high level situation where someone's trying to raise money for a company and setting themselves up, or if they're being audited. So I have the range of experience to try to be relatable to the clients and offer that. So that's the probably hopefully one of the differences between me and everybody else.
And that's amazing. I definitely can attest to that. When I met you and Michelle, like I felt very welcome, to the relatability aspect. I felt like I was talking to, someone that understood me. I didn't necessarily feel like, you all were like up here and I was down there as far as like the level of communication. Like you really broke down a lot
Hmm.
of like complex concepts to me to the point where like I understood it. And I think that's important. And I think that it's great that you acknowledge that, that's your brand, like that's your image. You want to be relatable. You don't want to, be condescending or making people who, may have
Right,
unfortunate
right, right.
tax
Yeah.
issues. You don't want to make them feel even worse, because, taxes are scary, all of that is scary. Money, when I think of the IRS, I'm like, I got to be on my P's and Q's. And, pretty much what Belvedere Tax Group does, that they make sure that, you are ready, you are fit, when it comes to those,
Right.
tax related issues and just tax preparation in general. So I think that's amazing. Matt just said, Jabari, let's make him the next tax guru on set. We can have Jason have a show. We can make it happen, and still keeping the that demeanor that he has and the relatability in mind. I definitely think that like I do kind of commend those guys like Earn Your Leisure, because they do kind of speak from a relatable aspect that folks can kind of understand. But I do also agree with Jason as far as like the half truths, and it really, like Jason said, like it really is great to like start the
Right,
conversation. Then you can
right.
go to the professional, Belvedere Tax Group, and get your work, get the work done the right way. So we're about 10 minutes out, from the show. I definitely want to take the time to kind of close us out.
Mm.
What are some, like, now that tax season is over, it ended, April 18th. What are ways that creatives can now prepare for the next tax season, so that they're up to code, their business is up to code, books are good. What are some ways
Well,
they
I
can
mean,
kind of
just
prepare
in
for
general,
next
I
year's
would
tax
say
season?
that you have to take the time to handle the business side of your business, meaning that it's a day in which you're not in the field, meaning a day in which you or a part of a day on a regular basis, even when it's the most difficult, um, even when you're in production. Okay, you have to take some time to handle the business side of things. It can't, things shouldn't fall to the wayside. And hopefully you have people to help you. It maybe not an employee, but you can, use somebody like us, or any other professionals, a lawyer, or, somebody that can help you handle the business side of things on a weekly basis. Because if you let things kind of build up, it it can seem overwhelming, and it can get expensive, not just with the people that you need to that you need to employ to do the work, but also with the government. The government doesn't care, about, if you just started or not. The government is, it feels like they're working against you in some ways, but they're really not. They're just doing their job, but it can feel that way. And so I think that, if you stay regular on top of things, then it makes it a little easier. So I think that's probably one of the one thing, even during a tax season or during whatever your high season is for your business, because I think now we're coming to spring. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more locations that you guys can be at. I'm sure that there are more, I'm sure there are different things you can, more people that want to get out and work and such and so forth. So it might, I can see business increasing for you all. And so, but you still need to take that time, whether it's a couple hours in the morning or it's, that I think that's a key thing that people should do. Have a standing meeting maybe once a month with somebody who can help you handle the business side of things.
And that's actually a great point. Yes, this would be, we are, as creators, we are approaching that peak season when work is, there's an uptick. So with our business, there's peaks and valleys. So, we have slow period, which is usually, starts like, December on into like, late winter. And then,
Right.
as we approach the spring, that's when work, hits an uptick. So kind of touch on what can creators do during those peak seasons versus those low seasons to kind of like
Yeah,
manage
so I
cash
mean
flow and
that
just make
that's
sure
a
that they're
that's a
staying
great
afloat.
way to put it, and that's what, like, my first real business that I got into was being I had a bicycle store in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and bicycle season was from, uh was from March, we hoped, okay, but really April to about September in Boston. Okay,
Yeah.
so it got warm. The warmer it got, the more bike sales and bike repair people needed, and we would hit our peak during July, to August, and then right when the students came back in September, we're still pretty busy right through October, and then it would just markedly drop off once it hits November through February, just drop off. But so understanding the cycle of business for your business is key. And what it did, though, I realized, is that it kind of created a natural planning period for us. So I know that, coming in, I knew that, hey, come November, I could start, again, seeing what went well, what didn't go so well, what the market's going to do coming into the future. I would go to trade shows. So we always had a show, trade show in Las Vegas that I went to, and I would bring some of my staff, and we would go ahead and see what the trend is going to be next year and try to decide on product mixes that were going to make sense. And we would try to bring that to the market come springtime, get people excited about it. So it's and that's for any business. You're gonna go ahead and you're gonna pay attention to what's kind of happening, to your business, how you can improve it, and hopefully make those changes. And I'm sure that I know that there are trade shows for folks who are in your industry. That's where a lot of new ideas and a lot of connections are made. That's the planning period. But when it's time to work, hopefully you're ready to enact your plan and execute and try to make as much money as possible so that you can take the time. You don't feel rushed during the slow season to go ahead and go back to work or take on projects that are going to distract you from, making plans on, growing your business for the next year. So, you got to kind of be like a little squirrel, when it's get as many nuts as possible, put them aside, and then, go ahead and live off of, that make sure your bills are paid, make sure you have enough money to take care of yourself. And then that gives you the opportunity to plan and make better plans for the future.
That's amazing. Definitely well said. And yes, we do have trade shows in our industry. Most notably, we have NAB, which happens in New
Mm.
York sometimes, and they also have it in
Right,
Las Vegas. And it's pretty much like a big camera
right,
convention. They talk about the newest,
right, right,
advancements in
right.
drones and cinema lenses and all that great stuff. So one way that I kind of like
Mm.
encapsulated that slow season. I call it
Right,
growth season
right,
because it's definitely a time where you are like developing and growing your business. And as you mentioned, finding the latest trends and ways to kind of improve your business. And honestly, there are creatives who might not have that insight
right,
or see it that way.
right,
It's like,
right.
oh man,
Yeah,
things are slow and I don't know what to do. But it's like, no, like that's a time when you're developing, you're honing in
right,
your craft. Because when would there
right,
ever be a time when you can just
right,
study and
right.
perfect your craft? Like when it's peak season,
Hmm.
you're busy. Like I've been busy practically every day, so far in April. So I don't really have time to develop my business or try new techniques. So it's all about perspective. And I think you said it very well, well put. So again, as we close, what's the future for Belvedere Tax Group? What can folks look forward to
Uh,
as the
with
year
us, I mean,
progresses and beyond?
we are still trudging through a bunch of tax returns that are people on extensions. Now we have time to actually uh, do more consulting with small businesses, and we're going to be we take the time. So now we're coming into not necessarily a slow season for us because we'll be busy right probably through the middle of July from all the business that has come to us for this first half of the year. But I have me personally. I've discovered that DC is much worse than I thought. Dealing with DC government.
Oh,
DC government is tough, man. I mean,
oh
they
man.
are they're not necessarily on top of their things, but boy, if they see you're not on top of something, they're gonna get all over you. So I'm definitely gonna be making a lot of friends there, and that's my job. My job as your tax professional is to try to make it as smooth as possible. Like when I go to the state building here in Maryland, those folks they know me. So they know if I'm coming in there, it makes your life easier, and so I have to kind of do the same thing in DC and probably in Virginia too, because we plan on expanding to Virginia sooner than later. I am also planning on probably writing a book this summer that's going to focus on uh, state tax
Okay.
situations. And I'm going to, hopefully use that for branding purposes for Belvedere to help expand our brand and imprint ourselves and make ourselves a brand name, especially focus in here in the DMV area. So yeah, we'll be pretty busy this summer, handling some business and preparing and getting that branding. And obviously we got to do the social media thing and get with you guys to try to make that happen. Yeah, we got a lot of work. Got a lot of work. A lot of work.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
It was great to hear. That's great to hear, and it's definitely been a pleasure to talk to you, Jason.
Oh,
Again, you
good,
have
good,
helped me so much on my
great.
creative journey and my business journey. You and Michelle and the family over at Belvedere Tax Group. I really appreciate you talking to my audience and pretty much giving folks like
Mm.
that guidance and just information again to spark the thought. And hopefully we can
Right,
get some
right,
people to call you
right.
all and say, "Hey, I need help with my taxes." So, I definitely think that, media and, what we do as creatives is instrumental to just the ecosystem of, businesses and kind of helping spread that word and really just kind of like clearing up
Hmm.
any misconceptions that people have about like accounting and taxes and stuff like that.
Right.
Because again, as you know, like, taxes can be scary for a lot of folks. So before we like officially close, how can people reach out to you all? Like, give me the socials, give me the
Yeah,
website
so the
information, all
easiest
that, so
way
people
is to
can reach
probably
out to you all.
hit our website, belvederetaxgroup.com. And you go there, you'll find our addresses in Baltimore and in DC, and you can reach out. Our phone number is 443-400-5101. Most likely you'll get me or you get Miss Vivian at that number. And most likely uh, Michelle will reach out to you because I'm terrible about following up. And but once you're in here, once you're part of the family, you'll definitely get, you'll get the full attention, our full attention. Try to get you to where you want to be at. Take some of that burden off of you and get you back in what you love to do, and that's our goal.
I appreciate that so much,
Okay.
Jason, and you have a great rest of your day. We'll definitely be in touch.
All right.
Again,
Thank you, brother.
Belvedere Tax Group, Jason
All right.
Upshaw. It was a pleasure.
All right. Bye.
All right, see you, man.